Welcome to English Prime Podcast. Let's get started.
Hey, English learners. Welcome back to English Prime Podcast. Here, we learn real English through simple conversations, daily life stories, and powerful communication tips. So relax, enjoy, and let's improve your English together. I'm Emma.
And I am Jake. Here, we help you build your confidence by talking about real situations that we all experience in everyday life. And today, we're going to talk about something that sounds simple, but many people find it really difficult: learning to say no without feeling guilty.
Yes, and I think this is something many people can relate to. Sometimes we can handle big problems in life, but saying one small word like no feels surprisingly hard.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is, most people don't struggle with saying no because they don't care about others. Actually, many people struggle because they care too much. They don't want to disappoint someone or make another person feel bad.
That's true. A lot of people think if I say no, maybe I'm being rude, or maybe they won't like me anymore. So instead of being honest, they just say yes, even when they don't really want to.
Right. And for a short time, saying yes can feel easier because you avoid an uncomfortable moment. But later, it can create stress, tiredness, or even frustration.
I have noticed that too. Sometimes people say yes because they want to be helpful, but after some time, they feel like they are always giving their energy to others and forgetting about themselves.
Yes, and that brings up an important question. Is being a good person the same as always saying yes?
I don't think so. Helping others is a beautiful thing, but there should be a balance. You can be kind and still have your own limits.
Exactly. A healthy relationship is not built on one person always agreeing. It is built on honesty, respect, and understanding.
And I think that is why this topic matters so much. Saying no is not just about refusing something. It is about knowing your own needs, protecting your time, and communicating clearly.
Yes, and when you learn how to say no in a respectful way, you are not pushing people away. You are actually creating healthier connections with them.
Before we continue this conversation, we also want to remind you that listening to real conversations like this is a great way to improve your English naturally.
Exactly. While you listen, you can learn how people express feelings, share opinions, and talk about real-life situations. You can pick up natural phrases and speaking patterns that you can use in your own conversations.
So as we talk about saying no without guilt, try to notice not only the ideas we share, but also the way we communicate them.
Because improving English is not only about learning words, it is also about understanding people, emotions, and everyday communication.
And that's what makes these conversations so useful. Now, let's talk about why saying no feels so uncomfortable for many people and what we can do to change that. If you enjoy these kinds of real conversations, don't forget to like the video and support English Prime Podcast. Your support helps us create more simple and useful English content.
Now, let's continue our conversation and talk about why saying no feels so uncomfortable for many people and what we can do to change that.
I think the first thing we need to understand is that many people feel guilty because they connect saying no with hurting someone's feelings. They think, if I refuse, I'm letting this person down.
Yes, and that feeling can be really strong. Sometimes, even when someone is tired, busy, or already has too much to handle, they still say yes because they don't want to disappoint another person.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is, the problem is not usually the word no itself. The real problem is the emotions that come with it. People worry about being judged, looking selfish, or losing someone's respect.
That's true. I think many people grow up believing that good people are always helpful. So they start thinking that being kind means accepting every request and always being available.
Yes, but there is a big difference between being kind and always saying yes. A kind person can support others while still understanding their own limits.
Right. And sometimes people forget to check their own feelings. They spend so much time thinking about what others need that they don't stop and ask themselves, do I actually have the energy for this?
That's a great point. Because from the outside, everything might look fine. People may think, this person is so helpful. But inside, that person could be feeling stressed, tired, or overwhelmed.
Exactly. And when someone keeps saying yes, even when they don't want to, it can create hidden frustration. They may start feeling upset, not because they don't care about others, but because they are ignoring their own needs.
Yes, and another reason people struggle with saying no is that they want to avoid conflict. They think, maybe it's easier if I just agree. But sometimes avoiding a small, uncomfortable moment can create a bigger problem later.
I agree. Because if you always say yes when you actually mean no, people don't get a chance to understand your real feelings or your boundaries.
And that's where honest communication becomes important. A respectful no can actually be healthier than a yes that comes from pressure.
Exactly. You don't always need a huge reason to say no. Sometimes your time, your energy, and your personal priorities are already enough.
I like that, because many people feel they need to explain themselves too much. They think they need a perfect excuse before they can refuse something.
Yes, but saying no is not about creating excuses. It is about being clear and respectful about what you can and cannot do.
And when you start seeing it that way, saying no feels less like rejecting someone and more like taking care of your own balance.
Exactly. Because healthy relationships are not built on always saying yes. They are built on honesty, respect, and understanding each other's limits.
And when we talk about always saying yes, there is another important thing to understand. Sometimes it looks like kindness, but it can slowly affect your own happiness and peace.
That's true. Because when you keep agreeing to everything, you may start putting other people's needs before your own all the time.
Yes, and after a while, you might feel like you are carrying too many responsibilities. You are helping everyone, but you don't have enough time or energy left for yourself.
Exactly. And the difficult part is that many people don't notice it in the beginning. They just think, I'm being helpful. But slowly they become tired and emotionally drained.
I think many people can relate to that. Maybe a friend asks for help, a family member needs something, or someone at work gives them an extra task. They say yes quickly because they don't want to create a problem.
Right. But sometimes that quick yes creates a bigger problem inside you. You might complete the task, but you are doing it with stress instead of willingness.
That's an important difference. Helping someone because you want to is a positive feeling, but helping someone because you feel trapped can make you frustrated.
Yes, and sometimes that frustration can even affect relationships. You may start feeling annoyed with someone, even though they didn't force you. You agreed, but you were not honest about how you felt.
Exactly. And that's why communication matters so much. If you clearly explain your limits, people have a chance to understand you better.
I agree. Actually, saying yes to everything can sometimes teach people the wrong expectation. They may think you are always available because they never see your limits.
That's true. And then the first time you say no, it feels like a big change for them because they're not used to seeing that side of you.
Yes, but that doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means you are showing a more honest version of yourself.
I like that because many people think boundaries create distance, but sometimes boundaries actually make relationships stronger.
Exactly. When people understand your limits, they know what to expect from you, and that creates more respect and trust between both sides.
So maybe the goal is not to stop helping people. The goal is to make sure your kindness does not come at the cost of your own well-being.
That's the key point. A healthy yes should come from choice, not from fear, guilt, or pressure.
And I think that is where setting healthy boundaries becomes really important, because boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about understanding what you can give and what you need to protect.
Exactly. A lot of people hear the word boundaries and think it sounds negative, like you are creating walls between yourself and others. But actually, healthy boundaries can make relationships better.
Yes, because when you have clear boundaries, people understand you more. They know what you are comfortable with and what you cannot do.
Right. And one simple way to start is by being honest with yourself first. Before saying yes, ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Or am I only saying yes because I feel pressured?
That's a great question.
Sometimes we answer too quickly because we don't even give ourselves time to think. We just react because we don't want to disappoint someone.
Exactly. And taking a little time before answering can make a big difference. You don't have to give an answer immediately. You can simply say, "Let me think about it."
I like that phrase because it gives you space to make a decision calmly. It also helps you avoid agreeing to something you may regret later.
Yes. And another important thing is the way you say no. A boundary does not have to sound rude or harsh. You can be respectful and still be clear.
For example, instead of saying, "I don't want to help," you can say, "I appreciate you asking, but I can't do that right now."
Exactly. The message is still no, but the tone shows kindness and respect.
And I think many people forget that. They believe they only have two choices, either say yes or hurt someone's feelings. But there is actually a middle way.
That's true. You can care about someone and still choose what is right for your own situation.
Another thing I find interesting is that people often respect honesty more than forced kindness. If someone agrees but clearly doesn't want to be there, you can feel that energy.
Absolutely. A person who says yes while feeling unhappy may not be truly helping. Sometimes a respectful no is better for everyone.
Because it keeps things real. The other person knows your true answer, and you don't have to carry the weight of doing something you never wanted to do.
Exactly. Setting boundaries is not about becoming less caring. It is about creating a healthier balance where you can support others without forgetting yourself.
And once you understand that balance, saying no starts becoming easier because you realize you are not rejecting people, you are simply respecting your own limits.
Yes, and this becomes much easier to understand when we look at real-life situations, because sometimes people agree with the idea of boundaries, but they don't know how to apply it in everyday moments.
That's true. Let's imagine a simple situation. A friend asks you for help, but you are already tired and you have your own things to finish. Many people would still say yes because they don't want their friend to feel bad.
Exactly. They might think, "My friend needs me, so I should help." And helping a friend is a good thing. But if you are already exhausted, you also need to consider your own situation.
Right. In that moment, a respectful answer could be something like, "I really want to help, but I don't have the energy today. Maybe I can help another time."
I like that because it doesn't ignore the other person's feelings. You are showing that you care, but you are also being honest about your limits.
Yes, and the same thing happens at work or in studies. Sometimes people give extra tasks to the person who always says yes because they know that person will accept.
That's a really common situation. At first, you may think, "I'm just being responsible." But if you keep taking everything, you may become overwhelmed and your own work can start suffering.
Exactly. And sometimes the problem is not that people are taking advantage of you on purpose. They may simply not realize how much you already have on your plate.
That's an important point. Clear communication helps because people cannot understand your limits if you never show them.
Yes, and family situations can be difficult too. Sometimes we feel pressure to agree with everything because we love our family and don't want to disappoint them.
True, but respecting your family does not mean you have to ignore your own thoughts or choices. You can be respectful and still have your own opinion.
I think that is where many people struggle. They believe saying no means they don't care, but actually, you can say no with love and respect.
Exactly. Imagine someone invites you somewhere, but you really need rest. You don't have to create a fake excuse. You can simply say, "Thank you for inviting me, but I need some time for myself."
That sounds simple, but it can be difficult for many people because they are afraid of how the other person will react.
Yes, but we cannot control every reaction. What we can control is being honest, polite, and clear.
I really like that because sometimes we spend too much time trying to make everyone comfortable while forgetting to ask if we are comfortable too.
Exactly. Real confidence is not saying yes to everything. Sometimes real confidence is calmly saying no when something does not fit your needs.
And I think that is the biggest change people need to make. It's not only about learning different ways to say no, it's about changing the way we think about saying no.
Yes, because many people have an old belief that saying no means they are selfish, or they are not a good friend, family member, or person.
Exactly. But a healthier mindset is understanding that saying no can simply mean you are being honest. You are not trying to hurt someone. You are just respecting your own situation.
That's true.
I think the problem starts when people believe their value comes from how much they do for others. They think, if I keep helping everyone, people will appreciate me more.
Yes, but your worth should not depend on always being available. You can be valuable even when you are resting, focusing on yourself, or choosing your own priorities.
I really like that idea, because sometimes people forget that they are also a person who needs care. They give advice to everyone else, but they don't give themselves the same kindness.
That's a great point. We often tell our friends, don't push yourself too much, but then we push ourselves because we feel responsible for everyone.
Exactly. And changing this mindset takes practice. The first few times you say no, you might still feel uncomfortable, and that's normal.
Yes, because you are doing something different from your usual habit. If you always said yes before, creating a new habit will take some time.
Right. But every time you communicate honestly, you become more comfortable. You start realizing that most relationships can handle a respectful no.
And sometimes people may even respect you more because they see that you are honest and clear about what you can and cannot do.
Exactly. A person who says yes to everything may look helpful, but a person who knows their limits often shows maturity and self-awareness.
I think another helpful question to ask yourself is, am I saying yes because I want to or because I'm afraid to say no?
That question can really change the way you make decisions, because when your answer comes from fear, guilt, or pressure, it usually does not feel right.
But when your answer comes from choice, you feel more peaceful. You can help others with a genuine heart because you are not forcing yourself.
Exactly. The goal is not to become someone who says no all the time. The goal is to become someone who can say both yes and no honestly.
And when you find that balance, you become a better communicator, a better friend, and also someone who takes care of their own well-being.
Yeah, and I think that's something many people slowly learn with experience. Not overnight, but step by step.
It reminds me of something I once noticed in real life. There was a person I knew who was always available for everyone. No matter what time it was, if someone needed help, they would say yes.
That sounds like a very kind person, but I can already guess it didn't stay easy for them.
Exactly. At first, everyone really liked them because they were so helpful. People would say, "Oh, they never say no. They are always there for us." And they felt proud of that.
But I feel like that kind of always yes life can become heavy after a while.
Yes, slowly I started noticing something different. That person looked tired all the time. Even when they were smiling, you could feel that they were mentally exhausted.
That's the hidden side people don't always see. From outside, it looks like kindness, but inside it can feel like pressure.
Exactly. One day I talked to them, and they said something very honest. They said, "I feel like I don't have time for my own life anymore. I'm always living for other people's needs."
That's powerful, because it shows how saying yes to everyone can slowly take away your own space.
Yes, and what surprised me most was that they didn't even realize it was happening at first. It happened so gradually that it felt normal to them.
That's often how habits work. You don't notice the cost until you start feeling the result.
Exactly. And then something small happened. One day they tried saying no to a simple request, and they felt extremely guilty, even though nothing bad happened.
That shows how deeply the habit of always saying yes can become part of your mindset.
Yes, but over time, they started practicing small boundaries. At first, it felt uncomfortable, but slowly they began to feel more peaceful.
And that's the important part. Change doesn't feel perfect in the beginning. It feels strange, but it becomes better with time.
Now, whenever I think about that person, I remember one thing clearly. Even kindness needs balance. Otherwise, it starts hurting the person who is giving it.
Yeah, and that's a lesson many people only learn after they feel exhausted themselves.
And I think one big practical lesson here is that most people don't struggle because they don't know how to say no. They struggle because they feel uncomfortable in that moment and choose the easiest option.
Exactly. And that easy option is usually saying yes quickly, without thinking. But later, it creates stress because you realize you didn't actually want to agree.
Yes, and another common mistake is that people think they need a perfect excuse to say no. So they start over-explaining or they feel guilty even when their reason is completely valid.
That's true. But the reality is, your time and energy are already enough reasons. You don't always need a long explanation to protect your own space.
I also think many people forget that saying yes to everything slowly reduces their own peace. They become so focused on helping others that they lose balance in their own life.
Right. And when that happens, even small tasks start feeling heavy because you are already mentally overloaded.
So maybe a simple mindset shift is this. Before saying yes, just pause for a second and ask yourself, do I actually want to do this, or am I just trying to avoid feeling bad?
That small question can change everything. Because once you become honest with yourself, your decisions become clearer and lighter.
And over time, you start realizing that people usually don't react as badly as you imagine. Most of the fear is actually in our mind.
Exactly. And the people who truly respect you will understand your boundaries. They may not always agree, but they will respect your honesty.
And that's something important to remember. A healthy relationship is not about always agreeing. It's about understanding each other's limits.
Yes. And when you reach that point, saying no doesn't feel like a conflict anymore. It just feels like normal communication.
So now I'm really curious about our listeners. Have you ever said yes to something, but deep down you wanted to say no?
Yeah. And what did you do in that situation? Do you usually find it hard to set boundaries, or are you comfortable with it?
We'd really love to hear your experience. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us how you usually handle these situations.
Yes, because sometimes hearing real experiences from others helps us understand ourselves better too.
Now, let's quickly look at some useful English from our conversation. These are simple expressions you can actually use in real life when you talk about boundaries and saying no.
Yeah, and the idea is not to memorize them like grammar rules, but to understand how they naturally fit into everyday conversations.
One really useful expression is, I need some time to think about it. You can use this when someone asks you something and you don't want to answer immediately.
Right, because sometimes people feel pressure to respond quickly, but this phrase gives you space. It helps you slow down the decision instead of reacting instantly.
For example, if a friend invites you somewhere or asks for help, you can simply say, I need some time to think about it, instead of saying yes or no immediately.
And that small pause is powerful, because many bad decisions happen when we answer too fast just to avoid discomfort.
Another helpful expression is, I can't commit to that right now. This is a very honest way to say you are not available without sounding rude.
Yes, and it's especially useful in work or study situations. It clearly shows that you are not able to take responsibility for something at the moment, but you are saying it respectfully.
We also talked about, I appreciate you asking. This one is really important because it keeps the tone polite, even when you are refusing something.
Exactly, because sometimes the problem is not what you say, but how it sounds. This phrase softens the message and shows respect for the other person's effort.
Another idea we discussed was setting boundaries. This simply means creating limits to protect your time and energy.
And it's not about being strict or distant. It's actually about balance. When you set boundaries, you are making sure you don't overextend yourself.
We also mentioned the phrase feel pressured. This is when you agree to something not because you want to, but because you feel emotionally forced.
Yes, and recognizing that feeling is important. Because once you notice you are feeling pressured, you can pause and rethink your decision instead of automatically saying yes.
What I like about all these phrases is that they are not just language tools, they are also life tools. They help you communicate your feelings in a healthier way.
Exactly. And when you start using them, you don't just improve your English, you also improve the way you handle real-life situations.
And slowly, you begin to feel more confident because you are expressing yourself honestly instead of just agreeing to everything.
Yeah, and that confidence naturally changes how people respond to you too. They start understanding your boundaries more clearly.
And now, let's turn this into something practical for you, because listening is not enough. The real improvement happens when you try to express these ideas yourself.
Exactly. So we're going to give you a few simple speaking questions. Don't just listen to them. Try to answer them out loud in English, even if it's not perfect.
First question, do you find it difficult to say no? And why do you think that is? For example, is it because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings or because you feel pressured?
Yeah, and try to answer honestly. You can say something like, "Yes, I find it difficult because I don't want to disappoint people." Or, "No, I'm learning to set boundaries more clearly now."
Second question. Can you remember a time when you said yes to something, but deep down you wanted to say no?
And when you answer this, don't overthink grammar. Just focus on speaking your thoughts clearly. Something simple like, "Yes, I agreed to help even though I was tired," is perfectly fine.
Third question. What is one boundary you would like to set in your life right now? It could be about time, work, study, or even personal space.
Yeah, for example, you might say, "I want to stop saying yes immediately and take time before answering." Or, "I want to protect my personal time more."
So pause the video here if you need to, and try answering these questions in English. This is how real progress happens, not just by listening, but by practicing.
And now, if you're serious about improving your English through real conversations like this, make sure you subscribe to English Prime Podcast and keep practicing with us.
Because every time you listen and speak along, you are building confidence step by step, and that confidence will slowly change the way you communicate in real life.
And before we end today's conversation, let's quickly go over what we talked about so everything becomes even clearer in your mind.
Today, we talked about learning to say no without feeling guilty, and we understood that the real struggle is not the word no itself, but the emotions behind it.
Yes, like fear of disappointing others, feeling guilty, or worrying about what people will think. These feelings often make it hard for people to set boundaries.
We also learned that saying yes to everything can look kind from the outside, but inside it can slowly create stress, tiredness, and emotional pressure.
And the important point was that boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about respecting your own time, energy, and limits.
We also saw that you don't always need a big reason to say no. Sometimes simple honesty is enough, like taking a moment before responding or politely refusing.
And most importantly, we learned that a respectful no is better than a forced yes, because honesty builds stronger and healthier relationships.
So if you take one thing from today's episode, let it be this: you can be kind to others without ignoring yourself.
And when you find that balance, you don't just improve your communication, you improve your life as well.
That's such an important reminder to end on, because at the end of the day, communication is not just about words. It's about how you feel while expressing yourself.
Exactly. And if you're constantly saying yes out of pressure, it slowly affects your energy, your confidence, and even your peace of mind.
But when you start being honest with yourself and others, even if it feels a little uncomfortable at first, life starts to feel lighter.
Yeah, and remember, learning this is a process. You don't have to become perfect overnight. Every small step counts.
Sometimes just pausing before saying yes is already a big improvement, or choosing a simple, respectful no instead of forcing yourself.
And over time, those small choices shape your personality. You become someone who is kind, but also aware of their own limits.
And that's exactly what we hope you take from today's conversation. Not just English learning, but also a better way to handle real-life situations.
If this episode helped you in any way, make sure you stay connected with us and keep practicing these ideas in your daily life.
Because the more you listen, reflect, and speak, the more natural your English and your confidence becomes.
Thanks for being with us today on English Prime Podcast.
We'll see you in the next conversation. Take care and keep growing.
Goodbye, everyone, and stay kind to yourself, too.